Isaiah Vaughn didn't think twice. The second he saw the man yank the purse off the woman's shoulder and bolt into the crowd at the farmer's market, Isaiah handed his daughter's hand to the fruit vendor and took off like his life depended on it. "Hold this for me, I'll be right back," he shouted, not even hearing the vendor's stunned reply as he pushed through the crowd. The thief was fast, but Isaiah was faster. Years of chasing after buses, juggling jobs, and sprinting down alleys to make rent had trained his legs to move when it mattered. And right now, it mattered. He didn't know whose purse it was. He didn't care. All he saw was the fear in the woman's eyes when it was ripped away, and that was enough. 3 blocks, 1 flying leap. And the thief hit the pavement with a grunt as Isaiah tackled him to the ground. "Give it back," he growled, yanking the bag from the thief's hand. The man scrambled away, limping into the crowd, but Isaiah didn't chase. He stood, panting, brushing dirt from his jeans as he walked back toward the market, purse in hand. He didn't expect her to still be there. But she was standing beside the fruit stand, heels dusty, dark hair a little windblown. Her sharp eyes scanned the crowd until they landed on him. You caught him," Isaiah handed her the purse. "Yeah, he okay," she blinked. "He ran off. You chased him down just like that. You didn't even look back." Isaiah shrugged, suddenly aware of how sweaty and underdressed he was compared to her cream blazer and gold necklace. "Didn't seem right to let him get away." "Are you hurt?" she asked, stepping forward. "No, I'm fine, just glad you're all right." Her gaze softened. "Thank you." "I mean that." Before Isaiah could respond, a small voice called out, "Daddy." He turned to see his daughter running toward him, the vendor trailing behind her. "Lola," he said, kneeling. "You okay?" She nodded, hugging his neck tight. "You ran away. I had to help someone," he said gently, brushing a curl from her face. When he stood, the woman was watching them. Her lips parted slightly, something unreadable flickering across her face. "This is your daughter?" she asked. "Yeah." "Lola, I'm Francesca Willow," she said, offering her hand. "Thank you again." He shook it. Her skin was soft, her handshake firm. "Isaiah Vaughn, nice to meet you." There was a pause that hung heavier than it should have. "Well," Francesca said, tucking the purse under her arm, "I owe you." "Let me buy you lunch." Isaiah blinked. "Oh, no, you don't have to. I want to," she interrupted. "You chased someone down for me. The least I can do is feed you and your daughter." "And I want pie," Lola added. Francesca laughed. "Pie it is." They ended up in a small corner bistro with linen napkins and menus without prices. Isaiah couldn't relax for the first 10 minutes. He kept adjusting his jacket, which was really just a worn hoodie. He wasn't used to being in places like this, not since the divorce and the layoffs. Not since everything changed. Francesca, though, didn't seem fazed one bit. "So what do you do?" she asked, cutting her salad like she wasn't in the middle of a restaurant that charged $20 for soup. "I work maintenance at a school, nights mostly. I take on extra gigs when I can, plumbing, fixing things. Whatever pays." Francesca didn't flinch. "That's hard work, honest work," he shrugged. "It's something. What about you?" She paused. "I run a company, Willow Tech. We build software, mostly for finance firms." Isaiah froze, fork halfway to his mouth. "Wait, you're that Willow?" She raised an eyebrow. "You've heard of it?" "Yeah, you guys are everywhere," she smiled, but there was something guarded behind it. "I try to keep a low profile when I'm off the clock." Lola leaned across the table. "You're super pretty for someone who works with computers." Isaiah groaned. "Lola," Francesca burst out laughing. "Thank you, Lola. That might be the best compliment I've gotten all month." By the time dessert came, Isaiah had relaxed. Francesca was, not what he expected. She was sharp, sure, confident. But she also asked about Lola's favorite cartoons and laughed when Isaiah described fixing a gym sink that exploded mid-repair. He hadn't felt this light in months. When the check came, Isaiah reached for his wallet. Francesca stopped him. "No." "I said my treat." "You all ready, Isaiah?" she said, locking eyes with him. "Let me thank you." He held her gaze. Something about the way she said his name made his chest feel tight. "All right," he said. "But next time it's on me." Her smile flickered wider. "Next time," he hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah." Francesca stood, smoothing her jacket. "Then I'll hold you to it." They walked out into the late afternoon sun, Lola skipping ahead. Francesca turned to him. "I'm glad you chased that guy." "Yeah," he said, watching her. Yeah, her voice dropped slightly. I think I needed someone to remind me not everyone's out for themselves. Isaiah swallowed. Well, I'm not. She stepped closer, just enough that he could smell her perfume, something warm and expensive. It was good meeting you, Isaiah, he nodded. You too. And then she leaned in and kissed his cheek. It was soft, barely there, but it left his skin tingling. She pulled back, her eyes locked on his. Good night. And with that, Francesca Willow, CEO of Willow Tech, turned and walked away. Isaiah stood there, stunned. Lola tugged his sleeve. Daddy, she whispered. Are you blushing? He didn't answer. He just watched Francesca disappear around the corner, his heart pounding like he'd just chased another thief. But this time, he didn't want to catch her. He wanted to fall. Isaiah didn't expect to see her again. Not in his world, anyway. But 5 days later, she walked into the elementary school just after sunset, holding a clipboard and wearing a navy coat that dusted the tops of her sleek boots. She looked wholly out of place against the chipped linoleum floors and buzzing overhead lights. He was fixing a jammed radiator in the front office hallway when he heard the receptionist say, "You're here for the donor tour, Mr. Vaughn can walk you through the new HVAC system." Isaiah stood up slowly, wiping grime from his hands onto a rag, and turned toward the sound of her voice. "I'll bet he's the same Isaiah Vaughn who tackled a purse snatcher last weekend," she said, stepping into view. He blinked. "Francesca," she gave a single nod. "You didn't mention you worked here. You didn't mention you did business with the school board," he replied, setting down his wrench. Not usually, but we're sponsoring the Community Science Initiative this year." She glanced around the dim hallway. "I thought I'd check out where the funding's going." His fingers tightened on the rag. "So you're what? Donating?" "More like investing," she said. "In the next generation of engineers, programmers, little girls who want to build satellites." Lola's face flashed in his mind. "That's admirable." Francesca took a step closer, her expression shifting into something unreadable. "You didn't return my call." Isaiah paused. "I never got one." "You didn't answer the number I left with the fruit vendor," she clarified. "I figured maybe you weren't interested." "I thought you were just being polite," he said, her head tilted. "I'm rarely polite without a reason." He looked at her for a long moment. "You came all this way to see if I'd call you." "I came to tour the school," she said, walking past him down the hall. "Whether you call me afterward is your decision." He followed, almost without thinking. "You sure you want to walk through the boiler room in those shoes?" "I've been in server rooms during a flood," she said without turning. "I'll survive." They reached the utility wing, where exposed pipes ran like veins across the ceiling. Francesca glanced up, unfazed. "You do all this yourself?" she asked, stopping beside a panel of circuit breakers. "Mostly. I know every wire in this place. I'll bet." He turned toward her, arms crossed. "Why does someone like you care about a place like this?" Francesca's eyes didn't flinch. "Because I used to sit in classrooms with flickering lights and broken fans. I remember what it felt like to be ignored." Isaiah's voice lowered. "You don't seem like someone people ignore." "They didn't care what I had to say until I made them money," she said calmly. "Now they listen." He leaned against the wall. "So what do you want from me?" She met his gaze. "Dinner," he blinked. "Excuse me. You said next time would be your treat," she said. "I'm calling in the favor." He hesitated. "I work nights. And I've got Lola." "I figured." She pulled a business card from her coat and slipped it into his palm. "I'll send a car. You pick the place. I'll bring the dessert." Isaiah stared at the card. "You don't even know if I'm free." "I'm betting you'll make time," she said, turning on her heel. "Just don't make me chase you down next time." He watched her walk away again, her coat trailing behind her like a cape. That night, after putting Lola to bed and washing the grime from his hands, Isaiah stood in the kitchen staring at the card. He didn't belong in her world. But that didn't mean he didn't want to visit. The following evening, he chose a diner tucked behind a gas station on the edge of town. It wasn't glamorous, but it had good food and a waitress who always gave Lola extra whipped cream. He booked a sitter, his neighbor's teenage daughter, and waited outside under the flickering neon sign, wondering if she'd really show. She did. Not in a limo, but in a sleek black car that hummed instead of roared, stopping with quiet precision. Francesca stepped out in a dark burgundy coat, her hair pulled into a low twist, and walked toward him with the confidence of someone born to own every room she entered. "This is where you picked?" she asked, glancing at the cracked sidewalk. "I figured it was fair," he said. "You showed me your world. Now I'll show you mine." Inside, they slid into a booth with worn cushions and a table that wobbled slightly. The waitress came over, eyes flicking between them with open curiosity. Francesca ordered a grilled cheese and tomato soup before Isaiah could say a word. He raised an eyebrow. "Not what I pictured," she shrugged. "I grew up on this stuff. My mom worked late shifts. This was our idea of eating out." He didn't ask about her mother. Something in her tone said not to. Instead, he asked, "Do you always chase after men who tackle criminals? Only the ones who return stolen property and order root beer with 2 straws for their daughter." He laughed, relaxing for the first time that day. "She talks about you, you know. Said you looked like someone in a movie." "Which one?" She couldn't remember the name. "Just said you looked like you knew how to fly planes and solve mysteries." Francesca smiled. Smart kid. Their food arrived, and for a while they ate without speaking, the quiet between them settling into something easy. Finally, Francesca leaned forward. "Tell me something you've never told anyone." Isaiah blinked. "Why? Because you already know what I do. You've seen where I live. But the real stuff, the things that matter, that's what I want to know." He stared at his plate, then looked up. "I wanted to be a pilot." Francesca's eyes didn't leave his. "What happened?" "Life," he said simply. "My mom got sick, then Lola came along. I couldn't afford flight school, and I couldn't afford not to work." She didn't pity him, she just nodded. "Your turn," he said. She traced the rim of her mug. "I never wanted a company, I wanted to write music. But I hated feeling powerless more than I loved composing." "That's not nothing," he said. "To build something from scratch. It's not everything either," she replied. "Not when the people I trust keep trying to sell pieces of it out from under me." The edge in her voice made his spine straighten. "Someone trying to push you out. Someone thinks I'm distracted," she said. "That I've lost focus." Isaiah folded his arms. "Have you?" Francesca lifted her eyes to meet his. "Maybe, but if I have, it's for the first good reason I've had in years." He didn't say anything. He just let the words sit there between them, heavy with implication. When they left, the air had turned cold, and Isaiah offered her his jacket without thinking. She didn't refuse. At the car, she turned to him. "I want to see you again." He hesitated. "This isn't your world." "I don't want someone from my world," she said. "I want someone who runs toward danger, not away from it." He studied her face, the way the streetlights softened her jawline and caught the glint of something vulnerable in her eyes. He took a step closer. "I can't promise anything fancy." "I'm not asking for fancy," she whispered. "I'm asking for real." He leaned in, slower this time, and kissed her. It wasn't tentative, it wasn't explosive, it was steady. Like he'd been waiting for a moment that finally made sense. When they pulled apart, she held his gaze. "Keep the jacket," he said. "At least until next time." She slid into the car, and he watched her disappear into the night again. But this time, he knew she'd come back. Isaiah had never been inside a penthouse before. When the elevator opened directly into Francesca's home, he didn't step forward right away. The floor was polished stone that caught the light from a chandelier, unlike anything he'd ever seen, abstract crystal dripping like frozen rain across the ceiling. The living room stretched wide and open, framed by floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over the city skyline like it was a painting hung just for her. "I thought we were meeting at the gallery," he said, stepping out slowly. "We were," she said, taking his hand and leading him deeper inside. "But I bought it." He stopped walking. "The gallery, it was closing. I liked the space." She let go of his hand and crossed to a side table where a pair of champagne flutes sat untouched. "Now it's mine. You bought an entire gallery because you liked it. I bought it because I was tired of renting rooms built by men who don't think women can afford their walls." He watched her pour the champagne, her movements precise. She wore a black dress that cut across her shoulders and stopped just below her knees. The kind of dress that didn't need sequins or shine to be unforgettable. He cleared his throat. "Your driver said you had something important to tell me." "I do." She handed him a flute and gestured for him to sit. "But first, I needed you to see this." "Where I live." "Why?" "Because I didn't want you to hear what I have to say and think I was pretending to be someone else." He sat on the edge of a white leather couch. "Okay, I'm listening." She didn't sit. She walked to the window, staring out at the city like it was a chessboard, and she already knew which piece she'd move next. "My board voted to remove me as CEO," she said. Isaiah stood slowly. "What? Why?" "They think I've lost focus, that I'm distracted by things that don't serve the company. They're calling an emergency vote next week." His jaw tightened. "And you think it's because of me?" "I know it is." She turned to face him. "I've missed meetings, I've ignored calls, I've said no to deals I'd normally entertain. All because I've been thinking about someone who didn't come from my world." He stared at her. "So what are you saying? That I've ruined your company?" "No." Her voice was steady. "I'm saying I need to make a choice before they make it for me." Isaiah set the champagne down. "I never asked you to choose anything, Francesca. I never even asked for this." "You didn't have to." Her voice dropped. "It was already happening." He walked to her, stopping a few feet away. "So what now? You going to walk away from everything you built just because I showed up?" "I don't know," she admitted, "but I know I'm tired of building things that keep me alone at the top." He looked around the room. "You're not alone because of the company. You're alone because you don't let anyone close enough to stay." Her expression didn't change. "You said once that you couldn't promise anything fancy, but I'm not asking for promises. I'm asking if you see something real here." "I do," he said without hesitation. "But I also see someone trying to burn down her own house just because she's afraid of what happens if she doesn't." Francesca looked away. "You think I'm self-destructing?" "I think you're scared," he said. "So am I. But I'm still here." She walked past him, setting her glass down without drinking. "I don't know how to do this, Isaiah. I've never let anyone close enough to matter." "Well," he said, stepping toward her, "I matter now." She looked up sharply. He reached for her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. "I won't ask you to give anything up," he said, "but I also won't let you ruin yourself because you think that's the only way to keep me." "I don't want to lose you," she whispered. "Then don't." They stood in silence, the city glittering behind them, the room too quiet for people who suddenly had everything to lose. Francesca stepped closer. "Come with me to the vote. Sit in the front row. Let them see you. Let them see I'm not hiding." He raised an eyebrow. "You want them to know about us. I want them to understand that I don't regret choosing you." Isaiah hesitated. "You sure that's smart?" "No," she said, "but it's true." He nodded slowly. "Then I'll be there." That night he didn't stay. Not because he didn't want to, but because he knew some things needed to be earned slowly, even in a world built on speed. The next morning, Isaiah put on the only suit he owned. It was 10 years old and didn't fit the same, but he stood tall as he entered the Willow Tech headquarters, flanked by glass walls and the scent of power. No one stopped him. No one asked questions. Francesca had left his name at the front desk, and when he walked into the boardroom, the eyes turned to him slowly, one by one. He sat in the first row. Alone. Unshaken. Francesca entered 5 minutes later, her heels clicking against the floor with deliberate calm. She wore a navy suit that fit like armor, her hair pulled back in a way that exposed the line of her jaw and the fire in her eyes. She stood at the head of the room, her voice even as she addressed the 12 men and women who sat across from her. "I know why you're here," she said. "You think I've lost focus, that I've been compromised." No one interrupted. "You're wrong," she continued. "What I've done is remember why I started this company in the first place. To build something that wouldn't just change numbers on a spreadsheet, but lives." A man in the middle leaned forward. "And this man you brought with you, he's part of that vision." Francesca didn't look at Isaiah. She looked at them. "He reminded me that value isn't measured in quarterly gains. It's measured in integrity, in courage, in the willingness to chase something that matters even when it costs you everything." Silence. Then a woman at the far end spoke. "So you're not stepping down?" "No," Francesca said. "I'm stepping forward." The vote didn't take long. Isaiah waited outside the boardroom as voices murmured behind closed doors. Francesca emerged 15 minutes later. He stood. "Well, they voted," she said, her gaze unreadable, and her lips curved not in triumph but in something quieter, something steadier. "I'm still CEO," he exhaled. "You sure you want to keep doing this the hard way?" She stepped into him, her voice low. "I want to do it the real way." Their lips met again, not a kiss of discovery, but of decision, and this time neither of them walked away. The first thing Isaiah noticed was the silence. Not the kind that came with awkward pauses or late-night regrets, but the kind that settled in a room when everything had finally fallen into place. He stood near the edge of the rooftop, the wind tugging gently at his collar, the city lights stretching like a glowing sea beneath him. Behind him, the soft clink of glasses and low murmur of conversation filled the private rooftop of the new Willow Tech Innovation Center, a celebration event for the company's latest community initiative. Francesca had insisted on holding the launch here, under the stars, with a string quartet playing and lanterns floating above the garden wall like fireflies. "You're doing that thing again," her voice came from behind, wrapped in something warmer than amusement. He turned. "What thing?" "Looking like you're about to run," she said, stepping closer. "You're not, are you?" "Not tonight," he said, watching her cross the space toward him. Her dress was a deep sapphire, the fabric moving like water around her legs. She hadn't worn it for the cameras or the press, she wore it for him. He could tell by the way she'd paused before walking out onto the rooftop earlier, her eyes scanning the crowd until they found his. "I didn't think you liked events like this," she said, standing beside him now. "All the handshakes and staged speeches." "I don't," he said, "but I like what it stands for." Francesca glanced at the tower behind them, its glass walls now permanently etched with the names of scholarship recipients, the first of hundreds the program would support. "I meant what I said in that boardroom," she said, "but I didn't realize how much I needed someone to remind me why I started all of this." "You didn't need reminding," Isaiah said. "You needed someone to tell you it was okay to want more than just the win." She looked at him, and for once there was no distance in her eyes, no barriers, just clarity. "I never pictured this," she said softly. "Not the rooftop, not the champagne." "Not you." "I didn't picture any of it either," he said, "but I'm glad it's real." She reached into her clutch and pulled out a small envelope. "What's this?" he asked. She handed it to him. "Open it." He slid the card out. Inside was a single sentence. "You have a seat on the advisory board if you want it." He looked up sharply. "Francesca." "No strings," she said. "You've seen the gaps, the corners we miss. I want your voice in the room. I want people like you shaping what we build next." "I don't have a degree," he said. "I don't care," she replied. "You've got something better. Perspective." He stared at the card for a long moment, then tucked it into his jacket. "I'll think about it, I know." They stood quietly for a moment until a burst of laughter from the far end of the rooftop broke the stillness. Isaiah caught sight of Lola twirling in her white shoes, a plate of cake in one hand, her other held by one of the scholarship students who'd taken a shine to her within minutes of meeting her. "She's going to remember this night," Francesca said. "She'll remember you," Isaiah added. Francesca's expression faltered for just a second, her voice quieter when she spoke again. "Do you ever wonder what happens next? After this, all the time," he said, "but I stopped being afraid of it." "Why?" He looked at her. "Because I know I'm not walking into it alone." Francesca stepped closer until there was no space between them. "I want to build something with you," she said. "Not a company, not a brand, something that doesn't need shareholders or press releases." Isaiah searched her face. "Are you sure?" "Because I don't come with a safety net. I come with scraped knees and overdue bills and a kid who still wakes up from bad dreams sometimes. I come with my own baggage," she said, "but I've got room for yours too." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box, her breath caught. "It's not fancy," he said. "I had to fix 2 broken furnaces and patch a roof to pay for it." He opened it. Inside was a ring, simple, gold, no diamonds, just hers. She stared at it for a long time, her throat working. "It's not about the ring," he said quietly. "It's about what comes with it." Francesca looked up at him. "Say it." "I want to marry you," he said. "Not just because I love you, but because I know what it's like to do everything alone, and I don't want either of us to do that anymore." She didn't hesitate. "Yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, and for a moment the city disappeared. No boardrooms, no headlines, no chase, just the rooftop, the wind, and the woman who'd changed his life by accident. Lola ran up to them, frosting on her chin. "Are you two getting married?" she asked, wide-eyed. Francesca knelt. "Only if you say it's okay." Lola considered that. "Will I get to wear a dress with glitter?" Francesca glanced at Isaiah. "That can be arranged." Then yes, Lola announced, throwing her arms around them both. They laughed, the kind that came from deep in the chest, the kind that healed things. Isaiah looked over Francesca's shoulder at the skyline. He'd once chased a thief down these streets, never knowing it would lead him here, to a rooftop, to a ring, to her. And for the first time in his life, he wasn't running towards something or away from it. He was exactly where he was meant to be. The wedding wasn't in a cathedral or a five-star hotel ballroom. It was in a converted greenhouse tucked behind an old observatory at the edge of the city, where the glass ceiling arched like a crystal dome and vines curled gently around iron beams. Sunlight streamed in through the panels, casting a golden haze over rows of wildflowers and wooden chairs filled with faces from two very different worlds. Isaiah adjusted the cuffs of his tailored jacket, exhaling slowly as he stood behind the curtain near the back entrance. Miles, the school's head custodian and his closest friend, clapped a hand on his shoulder. "You good?" "I think so," Isaiah said. "Feels like I'm about to jump off a cliff in a good way." "You're not jumping, she's meeting you halfway." The music shifted. Isaiah stepped out. He wasn't used to everyone watching him, but as he walked to the front, he didn't focus on the stairs or the camera flashes. He focused on the soft rustle of leaves, the scent of jasmine, and the way Lola beamed from her seat in the front row, her glittery dress catching the sunlight like stars. Then the doors opened behind him. Francesca stood framed in the archway, wearing a gown that shimmered like dewdrops at dawn. It wasn't traditional lace or beading, it was soft silk, structured at the shoulders and flowing at the hem, modern and timeless all at once. Her hair was swept behind one ear, her eyes fixed on him with the kind of certainty that made his ribs tighten. She walked down the aisle alone. No one gave her away. She wasn't someone you handed off. She arrived on her own terms, and she reached him with a calm that steadied everything inside him. "You wore the ring," he whispered, "every day since you gave it to me." The officiant began, but Isaiah barely heard the words. He couldn't stop looking at her. When it was time for their vows, Francesca surprised him by pulling a folded sheet of paper from her bouquet. Isaiah raised an eyebrow. "You wrote them down." "I didn't want to improvise," she said. "You deserve more than that." She unfolded the page. "I built a company because I believed I could solve problems. I built walls because I thought they'd protect me from being hurt, and I kept moving forward because stopping meant feeling the weight of everything I'd left behind. Then I met you, and you didn't try to fix me. You didn't try to climb over the walls, you just stood there, quiet, steady, patient. You made my world feel small in the best way, like all the noise didn't matter." She paused and her voice softened. "I'm not promising perfection, but I'm promising presence. I'll be there. For the hard days, the ordinary ones, and every second in between." Isaiah's throat tightened. He didn't have anything written down, but he didn't need it. "I used to think love was for people who had time for it. The ones who didn't have to trade hours for groceries or stay up fixing leaks in the ceiling. I thought I'd missed my chance. Then you showed up in a pair of heels too nice for a farmer's market and turned everything upside down. You didn't see me as someone you had to rescue or rebuild. You saw me. And you stayed, so I'm promising to do the same. I'll hold the line when it's hard, I'll fight for us when it's messy, and I'll never forget how lucky I am to love you." They didn't need to be told when to kiss. The applause rose like a wave as Isaiah wrapped his arms around her and pulled her close. When their lips met, everything else dropped away. Later, the reception unfolded under the stars. The greenhouse roof had been retracted to reveal the sky, and Lola danced barefoot between tables, holding hands with a scholarship student who'd been assigned to watch her during the ceremony. Francesca leaned against Isaiah as they watched her twirl, her head resting on his shoulder. "I've been thinking," she said. "Dangerous." She nudged him with her elbow. "I want to keep the program going, not just this year, I want to expand it. Rural schools, underfunded districts, more than just donations, I want to send mentors. Give kids a real shot. Then let's do it." She looked up at him. "You say that like it's easy. It is, when you stop trying to do everything alone." They didn't need more speeches, no more toasts, just the quiet understanding that this was the beginning of something bigger than both of them. Weeks passed, then months. They moved into a townhouse on the edge of the arts district, close enough to the community center where Isaiah now worked part-time, leading a mentorship program for kids interested in trades and tech. He turned down the official board seat but remained an advisor, showing up to every quarterly meeting with ideas that no one else had thought to bring. Francesca still ran Willow Tech, but differently. She set boundaries, took weekends off, chose projects she believed in. They traveled when they could, not for luxury but for experience. They took Lola to a coastal town where Isaiah taught her how to fly a kite and Francesca taught her how to read constellations. Some nights they stayed up late, their legs tangled on the couch, talking about nothing and everything, dreams that no longer felt so impossible. There were arguments. Of course there were. About laundry. About Lola's bedtime. About the way Francesca never put the tea back in the same drawer. But every disagreement ended with a conversation, and every conversation ended with a kiss. They weren't perfect, but they were real. And that was better. One crisp fall evening, Isaiah stepped out onto their townhouse balcony with 2 mugs of cocoa in hand. Francesca joined him, wrapping a blanket around their shoulders as she leaned into his side. Below them, the city buzzed. Above them, the stars waited. "You know," she said, "I never thought I'd end up here. Neither did I." "Do you ever miss the chase?" Isaiah looked at her, his gaze steady. "No," he said, "because I already caught the only thing I ever wanted." She smiled, and he kissed her again, slow and certain. Under the sky, with the city humming at their feet and a future wide open ahead, they stood together. And this time, there was no need to run.